Skynet. Okay, I can't. Here's why I don't like that movie. When I saw the trailer, they do that thing where he opens his face and he sees his inner, like, his gadgets and stuff, and they go,
Yeah.
"What's wrong?" And he goes, "I saw the inner me," and that's like a joke. I guess it wasn't funny, and then I just couldn't like take that movie seriously after that.
Really?
A bad joke in the trailer was just like, no, I don't like this movie. That
I
was
didn't
pretty much
watch it
it.
for a long time because it looked ridiculous, but then
Yeah,
I watched it, I think a couple years ago, and I was like, oh man, this movie was actually like really good.
I'd have to give it another chance because I mean it touches on like death and stuff, and so maybe I didn't appreciate that as a kid.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, you
Oh,
saw
did
it
you?
as a child.
Yeah. You saw it as a
I
child?
saw it when it was like new, so I was pretty young. It sounds like you did too.
Right. Right. Well, I saw it. No, it was maybe like a teenager or something like that.
Okay.
I wasn't ready for Robin Williams to get serious on me yet.
Yeah, I feel like I was in the same boat because I didn't. I remember not
Yeah.
liking it that much or being disappointed by it, but again, who knows? I was very young. Maybe it'd be my favorite movie now.
Right.
I think it's worth a look back, a throwback.
Yeah, probably. Devoting 2 hours to a movie now is like, oh man, am I really gonna watch this whole thing? I saw The Maze Runner. That sucked.
Isn't there,
Yeah,
a,
it
se-
looks terrible.
isn't there a sequel coming out already?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
there is.
Scorch.
Scorch. You won't make it in the Scorch.
So,
Don't you want to know the truth?
so now I don't have to watch The Maze Runner because I know that they made it.
Yeah, they made
they
it.
do.
And they even say they're like the maze was like nothing compared to the Scorch.
I know.
You're like, well, now The Maze sounds lame. I'm never
And
gonna
they
see
get
that.
out into the Scorch, and it's like there's not even a maze. It's just a desert. It's like, oh no, New York is a desert now. Oh.
No, they explain it. They explain it in Maze Runner. The world got scorched. They call it the scorch. Is pretty much like the surface of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
There's like some disease that like burns everything. I don't know.
Well,
But it's something like that. And but I'll ruin the whole movie for you, and I'll tell you why it sucks and why you won't like it.
Okay.
It's because they do the Resident Evil what's it called this like the trick, like the thing where everything goes wrong. They defeat the evil corporation, everything goes to shit,
Yep.
and then like someone sits down at a table and goes like, Phase 1 is complete. Like on to Phase 2. You're
Yeah.
like, no, you can't just put well-dressed people at a table and then be like, that it's all going according to plan. Like, that obviously did not go according to plan. There's no way you could have fucking possibly planned that. It doesn't make any sense. No,
That's-
it's just shitty movie writing.
such a cop out. Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like you
so-
see that in a million things too, right? Like that's like a huge trope at this point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what they did in Resident Evil, and it's like, oh, okay, I like that game, so I'm letting this pass. But with this movie, it's like, no way. That it is the most ill-conceived plan they ever could have possibly come up with, just to like put children. I don't care if they're like 16 or something. To put like children against like these giant mechanized robot scorpions that are like 20 feet long and super tall and like kill instantly. And it's just like, why would you fill an entire maze with these things? It makes no fucking. And the only way that they can get out is by accidentally killing one. And it's like, that makes it's I don't care if the book is better or if it explains shit. It's a stupid ass movie.
Right.
Yeah, total waste of time. Except to hate on it so much.
Hating on stuff is pretty awesome.
It brings it back. Yeah,
I hate once in a while. It's kind of fun.
yeah, you gotta do it sometimes.
Yeah. You know what I've come to hate more so now than ever in my life is middle-aged men on Harleys. There's so many of them out here.
You're really? In
Yeah.
East Coast?
Oh yeah, it must be the capital. I mean, just from the Laconia Bike Week in New Hampshire, and they all just come down from there, and the whole area. It's just there's so many old white guys on their goddamn Harleys driving around in the middle of the night, waking me up. We're close to we're right next. We're like on a fairly main road, so we get a lot of traffic at night. It's not a big deal until you get these guys. Jesus Christ, how is this allowed? How have we, as a society, allowed these things to exist? By that I mean 50-year-old white guys.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And you feel like they're kind of stealing that cred a little bit, right? Because the guy in the Harley that goes around, even in some kind of small degree, it was considered that you wouldn't mess with that guy.
Right,
And
yeah.
it's probably not the case anymore.
No, I mean, I think everyone just wants to mess with them.
Yeah.
They're very messable at this point.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're not really biker gang guys. They're just guys who hit a certain age and now they can afford a motorcycle and they're excited about it. You know, it's a
Yeah.
middle age, it's a, what is that?
Yeah,
Midlife
yeah,
crisis thing. It's
Midlife crisis.
Yeah, yeah. And there's just so many old people here because it's just that kind of place.
Midlife crisis.
Because young people here, they can't make money here, or it's just does not appealing, or whatever. So there's not, you know.
Huh.
But
Yeah,
anyway.
I don't know. Maybe there's something I want that I'm repressing, and maybe when I hit 50, I'll just be like, yeah, this is me, and I'll just do it. But
This
I
is
know it won't be that.
This is who I am, and
This is who I am.
we all just
This
turn
is
into
who I-
one of those.
This is who I always was.
Right. Georgia and I talk about that all the time. We're like, we're like, man, is this something just hits? You hit a certain age, and then you start being a little racist. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, what happens? Like,
Yeah,
how does this, like,
Wait, what?
Even like the most like liberal
true.
like person in your family that you know or something, your uncle or whatever, who was like, you know, marched against Vietnam and was at Woodstock and everything, will hit a certain age and be like, oh, these goddamn Chinese, and you're like, what? Are you like, what happened to you to make you this way? Like,
Yeah. No, I think it's totally true, and I didn't even, you and I talked about it briefly. It's like, and we can also talk about the brand new South Park, which touches on that a lot. And
oh, really?
oh, dude, that is probably one of the best South Parks in years, and I think it's channeling like what a lot of people feel, how like PC culture in America is like kind of crazy. It's going a little overboard.
Okay.
And I have a lot of friends who sometimes they'll post messages and it'll be like, no, people are not too sensitive nowadays. It's just like everyone is more respectful. And it's like, no, people are a little bit too sensitive nowadays. Like right now, people are a little too offended too fast, I think. It's almost like a lack
Are
of trust.
you being sensitive about
I
that?
live in Seattle and I keep my mouth shut. So no, I'm people watching.
You're a neutral party.
Exactly.
You're a Tom Bombadil.
Just consider me a force looking down on everyone and judging constantly from above.
I always have, Brent. I always have. So we're live now, everybody, and thanks for joining in. We have a few people kind of trickling into the stream here, and we're doing our Spin Drive podcast, the hardest to find podcast on the internet. And this is our very first time doing it live, so
Yep.
It's like a diamond.
yeah, it's a very special thing we're doing tonight. And we're doing this because, here's a little story why we're here doing this. Like the Relay for Life or one of those, we're doing a walk to defeat ALS, and that's happening this Sunday that I'm participating in. And my wife signed me up.
Just a walk?
Yeah, it was like, you know, you pledge to hang out and just walk the track or whatever. You ever seen those things? They
Yeah,
kinda
but
make it-
usually people run it.
Oh, people can run it. I mean, you know, a lot of these people are, you know, old women or something like this, or you know what I mean. It's more of like an event with stuff, and then people have, you know, they sell stuff for charity, and they have events and awards and all these different things, and it all happens at like a high school like track.
I get it now. An
yeah.
event with stuff. Got it.
Right, and so it's all right to raise money for the ALS Association. So my wife signs me up for a friend of ours who has a team, and she did this about a month ago. She said you have to raise $200 by the walk, which is in mid-September. And I said, okay. And then I completely forgot about it for a month, and so here we are.
And this is the same thing, really.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm attempting, if you are listening to this, if you could, we have a donate button just below, if you're watching on Twitch TV /Zaffo999, which I hope you are, there is a donate button that you can click just below the stream, and that'll take you to the donation page. And if you make a donation, you can go ahead and suggest stuff for us to talk about, or if you want, you can call in and join the conversation, whatever you want. So that's why we're here, and if you are listening, we would love it if you could donate. Just click the picture of us below this stream. If you're watching a feed on Facebook, I'll go ahead and post up the donation link in the comment section under the embedded stream.
You know what I noticed is there's a send money button on Facebook chat now.
Oh, is there?
There is. That's a little dipping into the real world there.
Wow.
Yeah. They're trying to make that into something. You can use if you can send money using something, then that kind of ups its value a little bit.
I think they might even be trying to, because now that you can stream on Facebook through Facebook, and it just shows up on someone's feed like a video, but it'll just start going, and it has
Really?
and the chat functions just like a comment section that's just updated constantly because everyone's
That's true.
But I've seen it work with Nathan Barnett, and he does it maybe once a week, and it works. It seems to work pretty well. But
Yeah.
I think that maybe they're competing with that because now they have. I mean, there's all these things. Everybody who has a YouTube or a Twitch channel has a direct like donate to me button. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
I've been locked out of that whole update to a lot. I think I'm actually going through my Facebook right now and I'm updating it just because
on your phone,
it has locked me out of doing cool things on Facebook, which I can't do anymore.
oh yeah, they're good at that.
I think that is the reason. Unfortunately.
Yep. So let's get us started here because we haven't done this in such a long time, and we'll do this maybe a little bit in chronological order. So Brent, you did not go to Evo this year, right?
I did not. I
No.
stayed home.
But Danny did, right?
Danny does.
Yes.
Yes.
I
Just checking.
did.
You did. Okay. Now this one was, I think, it's continued to be bigger and bigger. For anybody who doesn't know, Evo is like the what they call the World Series of fighting games, and it happens in Vegas every summer. And it's just gotten absolutely huge compared to even just maybe 5 years ago.
It's pretty bonkers.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is the biggest year yet, which they've been saying every year since its inception, as far as I know.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it's ever gone down.
Yeah. So, what did you compete in this year?
I played Guilty Gear, and I signed up for Mortal Kombat and it slept through it. Or
Slept
just
through it?
chose not to go.
Right. Have you been playing a lot of Mortal Kombat, though?
No.
Oh,
That's
okay.
why I didn't go.
Right. That's the one you... I did the same thing
Like,
with...
I played it
Go ahead.
a lot for, like, the first 3 weeks it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And then just stopped until Evo. And then
Right.
I was just like, eh.
I had played... I think the only human being I played with was Matt Olch online once, and the rest of it is just I just do silly stuff in training mode. But I was having fun with it for a while.
Which game?
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat.
Oh yeah.
Yep. What's up? Oh, we got Pat has joined us.
Pat. Oh, is he in
Patrick.
the chat? Pat's in the chat?
Pat's in the chat.
Pat
in the chat.
is in the chat.
Oh, man, I'm just coming up with all sorts of stuff we can talk about. We should talk about 1cc custom shirts and how it is a brutal thing that they never print enough of those. And you
Oh,
got one
what?
recently, didn't you?
I've gotten 2 recently. Yeah, so
Why are you not
Oh,
letting me
yeah.
know when these things go up for sale?
Those.
they're once a month. Every month they do a new design, and they take orders up until a certain day. Every month, it's like up until the 20th or something, and then they ship out maybe 2 weeks after that. But they'll print as many as they get orders for. It's just that they have a very strict one-run policy. And so those who don't know what we're talking about, there's a website called 1cc Shirts, and they have a lot of really interesting T-shirts that they do limited runs of at once a month. They've done like a lot of old game company logos and things like this. So like Hudson Soft logo, old Neo Geo kind of graphic stuff. Recently, they put out a Windjammers tank top, which I got a hold of. And the month after that, they did Nazca Corporation, which was the original creators of Metal Slug. So I got one that says Nazca Corporation with the Metal Slug tank illustration on it.
Yeah.
And they had
Georgia got you that, right?
Yes. They also had
Yeah.
an alternative one that month. So they had 2 that month. They were both Nazca. And instead of the tank, you could get Neo Turf Masters. So like the graphic of like the guy playing golf, which they also did.
You know what might actually? I'm just trying to think of ways to manipulate these people.
Mm-hmm.
Is what might get them to do a rerun is if you ordered all of the shirts.
Right.
If you ordered one of every shirt, that would be very expensive. Actually, that would be about $700 or $800 if you're paying $25 for each. But that might be the only way. If you had a whole mass bulk, they might print again. But maybe they have integrity. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, I'm sure if the money's right, they would do it. But I mean, it's such a
Right.
niche thing. I mean, these I mean, they're. I'm trying to think of other examples, but they're like such. They're like a lot of like defunct Japanese game development companies. Their logos, and like that's the shirt for the month. It's like that's a very kind of a niche thing.
Maybe they're worried about getting sued.
Maybe, I don't know, because you look at things like T-Fury and these all these big T-shirt companies that you see ads for every day without, on Facebook and stuff that they'll have like Doctor Who crossed over with My Little Pony or whatever, and
That's
it's like
true,
these
true.
huge companies own these franchises. It's like Star Wars. What if Star Wars was mixed with Goofy and Mickey Mouse? It's like, there's like this, but they don't get sued. Like, how is that? How does that work? But
I can tell your love for them.
yeah, right. Well, here's the thing: the fact that they're always like a crossover pun shirt is a little annoying to me. Like, you could come up with a cool design or a cool thing to do, but it's always like, pick two nerd things and find a way to pun them together. It's like there's thousands of just that.
There's the Doctor Who, and he's like bringing Ariel into the thing that he drives. That I don't know its name. Okay, I can't remember its name. The TARDIS.
The TARDIS.
TARDIS. Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Right, and there's something.
Everyone loves it.
Right, there's a reason why that's funny to people who are big fans of whatever the thing is. Right, I don't know.
Right.
And even when I get the joke, I groan.
You resent it a little bit, don't you?
You're like, oh man.
Yeah, I tend to pick up the shirt that it's just like art of the characters, like the Samus shirt, where this like Save the Animals one, where it's like Samus opens the door and there's some animals.
Was that the one that they did for the
Games Done Quick?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, the Save the Animals.
And actually, at PAX, I was wearing that shirt, and the lady who designed it stopped me and thanked me for buying her shirt.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool.
We got Josh in the chat, listening to us at the gym.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's good.
Cool. Yeah, guys, if you could, if you're
And
listening, if you
can.
could make a donation, that's why we're doing this here. So we've got a button below the stream. And you can go ahead and click on that and make a donation to ALS Association. We're trying to raise some bucks tonight.
I should add that the button has maybe my favorite image ever on it.
That's right. So yeah, I was going to make the event the other day, and I was like, oh, I need like an image for it, but I have no idea what to put. It's the first thing that popped into my head, and it's funny because the whole point of it was to be a quick and dirty Photoshop, just something to have on the page, right? But I stopped for a brief minute. And I was like, I had this weird crisis of who should be what character. And if you guys haven't seen it, it's Fist of the North Star, and it's Kenshiro and Rao and Toki and
Dan makes a good Rao.
He does. But then like in my head I'm like, well, I was like, Brent's really more of a Ken. And I was like and I stopped and kept doing that kind of thing, and I'm like, but Rao's my favorite character. And I was like, you idiot, just put, it doesn't matter, we just need a picture. But yeah, I'm glad it was such a hit.
I really wish Brent actually had Toki hair, too.
Oh, man.
It
Yeah,
looks
me
beautiful.
too. I wouldn't wear the little headband, but I like it.
You would.
If you had that hair, I think you would. I don't know if you could resist.
I'd feel different about life if I had that hair. Like,
I'd
have many different opinions, I'm sure.
Have you ever grown your hair out?
Yeah, but it doesn't grow out. It grows up. It's kind of like a bush.
Oh, you get like a little bit of an afro, but
Yeah, I get a big puffy head.
right.
Like, it's like a big Q-tip. It doesn't really go flowingly in any direction.
Right.
It goes in all directions at once.
Sure.
Yep. Although I get kind of wings. I get like curly wings.
Yeah, I get that a lot too. I actually have to. I mean, even at this length, I get those around the sideburns.
Speaking of which,
like
I tried to convince someone to get a perpendicular mohawk today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's something. You've seen mohawks, and you're like, oh, it's a mohawk. That's cool.
Yep.
But I thought it was like, how have I never seen a perpendicular mohawk?
Right.
Yeah.
A mohawk that goes from
Ear to
side
ear.
side,
Yeah.
ear to ear. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. You don't see that, do you?
Huh.
I'm picturing it, and it just looks dumb. If I'm being honest.
But it's okay if it looks dumb because no one has done it. So
That's the
it's
thing,
at least,
Plus,
no,
it's a haircut. People do stupid things with their hair all the time.
Yeah, and sometimes it takes off. You never know. I never thought the undercut would come back. Now it's fucking everywhere.
God.
Oh, you mean? Oh man, it is too.
Yeah,
that is weird.
the Sketch Turner from Comic Zone. Yeah.
You're talking about the Macklemore, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the shaved on the sides, long on the top, like the girl from the Crow movie.
Right.
The like asshole soccer player haircut.
Right.
That's true.
That was kind of
The guy with an Arsenal jersey haircut.
Yeah.
Who lives in like Bothell.
When's a rat tail gonna come into style?
Oh god, I hope never, man.
Like, is that gonna ever be like legit fashionable?
Dude, you know how I know I'm a judgmental asshole? Because even when I was like 5 years old, I saw a kid with a rat tail, and I'm like, that's disgusting.
Yep. So we have we have a comment coming in. Someone listening on Facebook, our buddy Hollis says, regarding what we said a minute ago about I guess the walk, the ALS walk wasn't impressive enough for you, Brent. And
oh yeah, well, was it not? I don't remember even hating on it. Did that happen?
It was me. It wasn't impressive for me.
It was impressive
I'm
for
not
you.
Impressed.
That's right.
It was. I apologize. It's just you're the skeptical one, Brent, when it comes to fundraising activities. We talked about this the other day, where you're like, "Is the ice water challenge really enough?"
Yeah, it's not.
But the old motto was. The idea is that a bunch of the folks at the walk can't walk. And the old motto for this event was walk to defeat ALS because you can. The idea is that you are fortunate to be able to walk.
Well, now I just look bad.
Right. But just forwarding that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Right. And it wasn't done no one's being mean or snarky here. We were just talking about
Yeah. I was just thinking maybe if you're in a relationship, you get someone to sign up for the ALS walk as like a hint. Like, hey, you should walk more. Like
maybe you should lose a little weight there.
Yeah, here you go.
Oh man,
I'm trying to imagine Hollis being mean, and it's like difficult. I can't do it.
No, I've never seen him. I don't think I've ever seen him be mean. Even like playful ribbing, he doesn't even. I mean, he will, but even then he'll like apologize for it immediately afterwards. He's one of the legit nicest people I've ever met.
Yeah, he's like a Michael John level of niceness.
Yeah, he's like oh shit, I couldn't remember LTB's real name, but I was going to say it as a joke. I don't know why, he just popped into my head there.
John Michaels.
John Michaels, yeah. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So Evo fighting games. There's so much been happening. Between just announcements between Street Fighter V has got a bunch of new stuff. They just announced King of Fighters 14. Rising Thunder has been a thing. Have you guys tried Rising Thunder yet?
I have played a lot of Rising Thunder.
I have a code, but I haven't used it yet.
So I played a little bit of it. Not anything with the most recent update that allows you to play against your friends, I believe. But what do you think, Brent?
I like it.
Yeah.
I can definitely say like it feels a little. When you go back from playing that to fighting games, just doing the motions feels like a little more intuitive. Or not intuitive, but it just feels better. It feels more like you're playing the game because you are just kind of pressing buttons in the other one.
Yeah.
But you can play to your utmost ability. That's pretty much it. You'll never make a mistake.
Right.
And that's really fun. So that's really addicting.
Right. I can imagine so. And I feel like there's obviously even for people who are really hardcore fighting game people who don't like the idea of a single button special move. Just for anybody who's listening who doesn't know this, Rising Thunder is a new free-to-play game. It's currently an open alpha or open beta. You can play it for free, I believe, at this point, and anybody who wants to. And it's made by the guy Seth Killian, who was part of Street Fighter 4 and the PlayStation All-Star Battles game. And the idea is that it's like taking a Street Fighter style 2D traditional fighting game, but you can play it on PC. And instead of it's removed all of the like fireball motions where you have to do a half circle or a quarter circle or charge back and forward, up, down, and do these complicated inputs to throw a fireball or do a special move. And all those are just a button now. So you have 3 attack buttons, light, medium, and heavy attacks. And then you have 3 more that are just special move A, special move B, special move C. And each of those has a cooldown time. And the idea is to take execution out of the equation, or at least bump it down a little bit so that you don't have to practice fireballs 100 times in training mode to be able to just throw a fireball in a game. So, And I think that there's the idea being that, I mean, fighting games are such a niche thing, and I think there's obviously room for something like this, a game like this. You know, there's definitely a place for it in the world, and a lot of people who I think like fighting games and the ideas in fighting games, but just they don't want to have to sit down and practice and really grind and make it part of their lifestyle just to be able to play. But I mean, some people, some of the hardcore fighting game guys embrace that, and they absolutely hate the idea of single button specials. But they're going to have to live with some of these games existing in the world. I don't think the traditional games with the hard inputs and impossible execution are going anywhere. But
you mean they're not? You mean they're staying put, or they're not leaving? Because they're also sort of staying put.
The games that what do you mean, like the
yeah, like regular Street Fighter games.
Yeah, I don't think that they're. Yeah, I think there will always be fighting games that are for
I think so too.
More hardcore guys or whatever.
Like KOF 14.
Like KOF 14.
But I do want to say really quick, the one thing it really does introduce is the cooldown system, which is not in any other fighting game.
Yeah, it is interesting. As far as I know. Yeah, it's almost. I mean, it's almost MOBA-ish.
Yeah, it is. It's actually pretty cool. It really changes it.
So you like it? I've heard some complaints that a lot of people that think even people who like it say like it's cool, but I'm having trouble wrapping my head around cooldowns on special moves.
I think that's perfect. That makes so much sense to me.
Yeah.
And especially because a lot of the special moves they're one button and they're just as good as they are. They didn't like dumb them down because now they have one button reaction time.
Right.
They're like full Shoryukens and full fireballs and everything. And so the only thing that keeps them from being just completely broken is the cooldown.
Right.
Right. And so then that's like a totally new thing for the genre.
Yeah,
that's pretty interesting.
As far as I know, there's no other game also that has, and correct me if I'm wrong, but where you have a loadout that you select which specials you'd like to have.
Right. No, well, Skullgirls does that.
Oh, does it?
That's about it.
Okay,
yep.
Okay. I do like that idea. I think it's a great way for, and I think that's it's a great way for Skullgirls and games like Rising Thunder to go, like independently made games where it's like fighting games are a lot of work, and if you're a small company making a fighting game, that's a big challenge. So, and people who play fighting games, they want to have 50, 60 characters to pick from, and you're like, that's not feasible for my small team.
Right.
So how can we still have a lot of variety in a few characters, right? So let's take a few characters, a handful of characters, and make them customizable, interchangeable. That way we don't have to make entirely new assets and animations for a huge cast of characters. We can just have one character that is essentially maybe 15 different characters depending on how you set their loadouts.
Right.
And I think that's great. I think that even Mortal Kombat X, which is not obviously a small indie game or anything like that, but they have the variations. So for each character, there are actually 3 different versions of the character that function differently, but that use the same character models and all this stuff. And I think that's a way that an independent fighting game could go as well. Just having isms, basically, like in Alpha, where it's really make your character 5 characters or whatever. You know what I mean? Really get your mileage out of the assets you're making because you're a small studio. So I think that's cool.
Yeah,
Skullgirls did that. Although on the flip side of Skullgirls, I think it's bad that they made it like a 3-on-3 game because suddenly that makes the cast seem even smaller, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other topic there. But yeah, so. But you like? I think Rising Thunder's doing well. I think people like it overall, which I was thinking people wouldn't for some reason. I think that I don't know. Maybe I got too many like hardcore fighting game guys in my ear all the time.
No, it's true. Everyone would act butthurt about it.
Right, and they're like, this is for babies, and why don't you grind for 20 years first? You know.
No, really. You know what, man? I don't know. It's not that no one could get good, but I think when you played when you're younger, it's like you reach a certain level at that point that you never really lose, and it's hard to get to later on.
Right. So we got a few more people in the stream here now. Everyone's joined us. I think we peaked out at like 9 or 10 people at one point. We got a couple donations in there.
Josh donated.
Josh did donate. I'm not sure if there's any other donations in there. I have to check my email.
Thank you, Josh.
But yeah, thanks, Josh. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And
I wanted to ask you really quick.
Yeah.
Are you walking for all the miles donated?
Yes, I will be participating in the walk, the ALS walk. This is what this is for. This is the 210 would be my contribution to my team.
I see.
Right.
I didn't. So are you going to walk more the more you get?
I'm not sure that's. I don't think it works that way. I think it's just you try to get a set amount that they give to everybody.
Oh, I thought it was a thing like people could make you do stuff if they gave money.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to do that.
Yeah,
if that's what
maybe
it
we
takes.
should introduce that element.
Yeah. For anybody who's listening now and wants to, well, what we're doing this for, if you haven't heard yet, is we're trying to raise for a walk to defeat ALS. There's a donation button, which is a picture of us just below the stream window, or also in some of the Facebook threads that we posted this link up to. And it's all going to the ALS Association for an event that they do every year. In this case, they do a walk, kind of like a Relay for Life kind of a gimmick, and that's this Sunday. So trying to raise money for that. Anything you could donate would be greatly appreciated. I believe Pat also donated here, or Diamond Dogs did. We have Joshimitsu. Somebody named Johnson. Oh, Johnson Jew, probably. And Kazuhiro Miller, a donation from Kazuhiro Miller.
Oh, sick.
Hey, what's up, Pat? Who is Zen Doctor?
I'm not sure.
I don't know either, but happy to have you in the chat.
Yeah, and again, guys, just go ahead if you have anything you'd like to say or want us to talk about or anything like that. Feel free to do it, especially if you've been so kind as to make a donation. This has been great so far, and we're only a half hour in, so this is perfect. We're already about halfway to the goal almost, so that's awesome. But yeah, so Street Fighter V, since we last talked, has announced like 5 different characters, and a couple of them brand new. There's Nakali, who I've heard is a charge character.
No, he's Fireball character.
Is he? No, he's a charge character now.
It's like since a recent change, right?
Since about a week ago.
Okay.
So like when they were showing off, I guess like the most recent, they're saying, so they changed his tackle to a back forward charge, and then his uppercut is a flash kick motion, but it's more invincible now.
Okay.
Or something along those lines.
He was a Fireball character in PAX.
Yeah.
He was pretty good.
It was okay.
That's pretty good.
Karen Kenzuki is the most recent announced, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's great. I mean, I even on this podcast before kind of made fun of like people who we talked about like, oh, where's Street Fighter going to go? You know, in this new iteration, if they do that, and like people are just going to be like, oh, where's Armiko? Where's Karen? And then that's all they really want, you know?
Right. They were left out of the Street Fighter Dream Match, which is Street Fighter 4.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty much what that game was Street Fighter Dream Match.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I mean, they had all of Street Fighter 2, every character from Street Fighter 2. Zen
The
Doctor,
majority of the alpha characters.
a lot of them, absolutely.
Yeah.
And,
pretty much everyone.
Street Fighter
They had
3.
like a Tekken level roster at the end of that.
Yeah, some of the most popular Third Strike characters, pretty much all the popular Third Strike characters, with the exception of Urien, but even then, that's...
Yeah. And even bringing in things like Evil Ryu, which is just like, that's fan candy.
Yeah, I
It's
wish
just like...
they changed Shin Akuma to... It's kind of a Shin Akuma concept, but plays nothing like him, and he's a new character, basically, Oni.
Oni, yeah.
Right,
Oni was awesome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Zen Doctor is Hollis, it looks like, so thanks for tuning in, Hollis.
I had a sneaking suspicion.
Yeah. He was my former supervisor briefly for a time.
Really?
Yeah, I worked with him in Boston for a while. Actually, they offered me a job at the same time I was offered work elsewhere.
Yeah.
And the only reason I couldn't take it was because we would have had to have moved, or I would have had to continue doing 6-hour commutes a day. And she was like 9 months pregnant at the time, so I couldn't leave her that long during the day, and we were not in a shape where we could move.
Sure. You did 6-hour commutes?
Yes, sir. Every day.
Jeez, man.
3 hours up, 3 hours back.
Wow. Where were you driving to?
Boston, the city of Boston.
My God,
The
man.
Windy City, some call it.
Much respect for that.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
is
It was
crazy.
yeah, it was awesome. Actually, for a while, it was awesome.
Yeah, I bet it'd be kind of cool to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was a lot of time, and I was absolutely pooped, and I didn't get to see my kids during some days, but it was, it wasn't sustainable. But for a while, it was. I mean, I just like doing the work there. It was, yeah, it's about 3 hours out. I'd drive to a train station, take a train into the city, and then walk about 20 minutes. So it was a little rough, but it was a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Johnson has made it. Oh, we have another donation. We're up to $140 already. We're not even an hour in.
Wow.
Have to look see where this
We
is
like
from.
just started.
I know.
I haven't even talked that much.
Joni Johnson, Kazuhiro Miller, fundraising honor roll here. This is great. Thank you for all the donations. This is amazing, guys. That's right. Hollis mentions that we also had quite a bit of snow. This was during like the winter.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
like 4 foot of snow. So I missed a few days of work, and yeah, he says it melted in July. It's very true. So Johnson Shorjukin has mentioned he wants us to talk about what our favorite wrestling game would have, roster from X, gameplay from Y, etc. He was asking me about wrestling video games.
Wrestling game, really?
Yeah. I think that's great. I think wrestling games are really interesting to me because I still think that it's a genre that it doesn't evolve very fast. There's not a lot of people innovating in it, and I think it's one of those game genres that just hasn't quite hit. There's not really been a great wrestling game yet. I feel like just the basics or something. It just comes off. Most of them come off as just like a weak ass fighting game or too much random shit. Or it's like the two guys lock up and then you both mash buttons to see who wins out. And
and it's like really weird or like excessively complicated. Where like there's all these options and counters that don't really do anything.
And you don't know.
And I think part of the problem was that the engine that Dimps made for the N64 games was licensed, and I don't think they ever licensed it out to anyone, so like nobody can actually use that control scheme.
Right.
Yeah, I don't feel like they've expanded it out enough. Like, so when you're wrestling, wrestling is a very interesting thing.
Yes.
But if you're wrestling in a wrestling game, it looks so small, right? The characters just kind of struggling. They just it doesn't look exciting. But if you took that struggle, if you took that tension and you made it bigger in some way, if you could express it in a different way, that would be a very interesting game.
In terms of I'm about to go deep with you guys on this for a sec, but before I do that, I think some of the recent WWE, I say recent, like the past 5 or 6 years, they did Legends of WrestleMania, and then followed that up with WWE All-Stars. And these two games are very arcadey like that, and they sound maybe like what you're looking for, Brent, where things are very expressive and they have big like hit sparks and nothing works realistically, and they go flying up and 50 feet in the air for an elbow drop, and then they smash down on the guy, and the gameplay is based heavily around like juggles, like just hitting people and knocking them around and everything. So that's something.
That might be true. But what I'm talking about, although that does help, the expressiveness helps a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot in the presentation, not so much in the mechanics. The mechanics are actually simpler to be more like an arcade game.
Right. I guess what I'm talking about is more a game about tension. If you could make a game that expresses tension in a little better than it seems to be expressed in those wrestling games when they're just kind of going. But you're both mashing the shit out of the controllers.
Right. You're like talking kind of about like the problem or the difference between Madden and NFL Blitz. I guess. So one of my favorite things about NFL Blitz is that like when you hit somebody in that game, like it looks like it hurts.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it. Like there's like this big crash and they're like, oh! And like they do this big excessive motion, but it looks like they're just smashing each other.
Yep.
And then, like all of the iterations of Madden, they just kind of like wrap them up and like lie down, and it doesn't look like it hurts.
Yeah.
And like, if you've ever played football, getting hit in football hurts like a lot. The pads don't really add like protection from you dying.
From you getting like injured, but it doesn't stop the pain. It's like wearing an athletic cup and then getting kicked in the crotch. Which is I've done. And it still hurts. You still fall to your knees. It's still awful. It's just that you can have children later.
Yeah,
is the only difference. It's like what the benefits are not immediately aware. It's great.
Yeah.
But even besides kind of the presentation of a wrestling game, I feel like just the mechanics of what it's supposed to be has not found its own kind of carved its own path in terms of being purely wrestling. So what I did this about a year ago. I posted up on Facebook. I said like, man, I wish they would come up with like a wrestling like RPG. And I was joking at first, and the more and more I thought about it, the more I was like, wait a minute, like I'm like writing all these ideas down. And it would play, what I came up with was like, so, instead of just trying to defeat an enemy, you actually have to play off of things like crowd reactions and whether or not you're the good guy or the bad guy. And if you are doing something, if you're a bad guy and you're doing something super cool and interesting, the crowd goes wild, then you're fucking up because you're supposed to be doing lame shit that makes the crowd boo you. If you're playing a good guy, and you do the same move over and over again, you're fucking up. And it's about working that kind of kayfabe of like the story you're trying to tell. And I pictured it as almost like a turn-based Final Fantasy Tactics kind of thing, where I'm like, okay, so what's the difference really between a spine buster and a belly-to-belly suplex, really, in terms of gameplay stuff? It's like, well, you pick the guy up and you throw him and it does damage, and the difference is really just where the guys land and how much damage it does, and like that's really boring, and it's just, there's so many wrestling moves that it's like they really mechanically would be identical. You throw a guy and he gets hurt, and now he's closer to being pinnable. So this time around, I'm thinking like, well, what if it's very kind of like a tactics style game, but very physics heavy, kind of like Disgaea had the pick up and throw characters kind of a thing, where it's like the difference between a move is basically where your enemy will end up, where you'll end up after the move, where they fall, how far they fall. It's a lot of stuff like that to manipulate where they're standing. If they go into the crowd, you don't win by defeating an enemy with HP. You win by literally like pinning them, or there's different rules for each match that are all actual wrestling moves. It's like you can actually try and just throw a guy far enough to where he gets a count out. He loses by count out or whatever. I don't know. Like I'd like to see a wrestling game approached from just a wildly different, place. I guess. I don't know.
Right. You could make a regular board game out of that if you wanted.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I picture like imagine the stages in a Disgaea or a Final Fantasy Tactics or one of those types of games where there's all these different heights, and they're kind of it's like the little blocks that are like all over the place. Now picture it's like a wrestling ring that's been destroyed, and like there's like a fracture down the middle of it, and it creates these different heights in the ring. You know what I mean? And then outside the ring, there's a big drop to the floor, and then outside of that, it bumps up for all the. This is just
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to come up with something that's like that keeps a wrestling game from just being a weak fighting game. I'm sorry, Shorju, can we completely tangent from your question?
Wait, what was his original question? Oh shit, we didn't answer it. God damn it.
We'll get there. I warned everyone I was going to go on a wild tangent. I did, and I'm done now, so we can go back to the question. He asked, favorite wrestling game would have roster. Like, what was your favorite wrestling game roster and the gameplay wise? So for me, best gameplay, best wrestling game ever is Fire Pro Wrestling Returns for PS2.
There you go.
Yeah.
I was afraid you were going to say something stupid.
No. I said something perfect.
I should have known better.
Yeah. So if you haven't played it, you should. It's on PS3, I believe. I don't know. It was for a while. You could download it as like a classic PlayStation game or whatever, or you can get it for PS2 on eBay or something for I'm sure like $10. But it's the best wrestling game ever. Fire Pro Returns from the Fire Pro series of wrestling games, which are great. As far as the roster, I'd have to go with the 90s, and I mean the whole 90s is my favorite era of wrestling. I love even some of the garbage from the early 90s, even some of the garbage from the late 90s. But that's when I was most hype. That's when the world was most hype on wrestling, was like late 90s, mid-late 90s.
Yeah.
It was the most exciting time to be a fan. Montreal Screwjob might still be like one of the most perfect wrestling storylines ever to happen, and it was only half written, and the rest of it was like improv and actual screwing a guy over. I don't know. So something from that. I need Shawn Michaels. I need Bret Hart. I need Steve Austin and The Rock. And Kurt Angle, even though he came later. But that'd be my roster. So what do you guys think for you?
Oh man, I'm gonna let Dan go.
I don't know. Like I'm not like a huge wrestling guy.
Right.
And like going back and looking at some of the N64 games, there's like a clear difference in like how good or bad the rosters were. And like the biggest thing for me was like all of the women in WrestleMania 2000, aside from China, are just absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
It's really funny going back to those games and being like, I remember this guy, I remember this. Who is that?
Right. You're like, Viscera? Who the...
Yeah. Oh, it's like, oh, Midian. Oh, yeah. No.
Yeah.
Like, no. Nobody remembers that guy.
Yeah, nobody remembers poor Midian. You guys have Gangrel, I think, is a Seattle guy.
Yeah, Gangrel is... Oh, my God.
He's gross. He
does have an awesome kick in those games, though.
Yeah, absolutely. He started... little fun fact, you remember the whole New World Order thing? He started a company after he got out of wrestling called the New Porn Order, and he was an adult filmmaker for a while.
Hey.
Yeah, but you can meet him at the Seattle Horror Convention. He's there at a table every year.
The Seattle Horror Convention?
Yeah, you guys have it's got a better name than that, but
of course we do.
In terms of like mechanics and stuff, I think No Mercy is pretty good.
Really good, yeah.
My problem with WrestleMania 2000 is that it's awesome in that it's like way faster than No Mercy.
Right.
Like No Mercy is like prettier, which means the characters' faces are like octagons instead of cubes.
Right. You get 3 extra polys in there.
But like...
Oh, Josh, sorry, real quick. Josh says Crypticon, and he's right. That's the name of the Seattle Horror Convention. It's actually pretty good. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hold on. What?
Okay, well, I'll go.
Yeah.
Roster from...
Rumble Roses.
How did you know?
That's a good one. It's a good roster.
I was going to say Saturday Night Slam Masters.
Hell yeah.
Because
now you're talking.
that is that game, and everything about that game is kind of my jam. Yeah. I haven't really played it as much as I would have liked, but just like the style, the way it moved, everything about it was like perfect 90s video game.
Oh yeah.
So probably that, I don't mean to cop out, but my real, it's just that game. I just like that game.
No, but, it's not a cop out at all.
Gameplay from Y. I mean, it had that fighting game play kind of style. So
yeah, even more so. I don't know if you remember, in the sequel was just a straight up fighting game with the original Slam Masters characters.
Slam Masters 2 was the best mystery game tournament game ever.
Yeah, that's right. I did that the very first. Yeah, go ahead.
Those characters in a Street Fighter game, which is still technically a wrestling game because they are wrestling characters. So that would be
right. Yeah, and I thought it was, even just for a fighting game, it was great. Slam Masters 2. And Heavy D remembers I did that for the very first mystery tournament that I ever did. Was Saturday Night Slam Masters 2 was one of them, and everyone was
NBA Jam was the worst idea ever.
The grand finals, I made Heavy D play Jason Cole in a best of one game of NBA Jam Tournament Edition, the arcade version.
The guy who worked at Midway.
That's right, he did. Yes, he did. And who got to play as the Sonics, though?
I did.
You did. And he played as...
the Bulls.
In the 90s?
Of course he played as the Bulls.
It's like playing Bo Jackson in Tecmo Bowl. Just Bo Jackson, by the way. I said just the player on purpose, because he's the only thing that matters in Tecmo Bowl. The rest of the team is irrelevant.
But before... when I was talking about the wrestling game, so WrestleMania 2000 is way faster.
Yep.
But it's like 1,000 times more random.
Yeah.
It's like the kind of thing where like Royal Rumble is like the most frustrating thing ever to play with other people.
Right.
Because they can just do like a normal B punch and you stumble back 5 feet and then just flip over the
rope and you're just out.
Yeah, for no reason.
Yeah, it's made to be like, it's almost like a party mode where it's like, if you don't care about anything, if you're not invested in the result of this game, then go ahead and play Royal Rumble mode.
Yeah, and it's like the worst thing, and they fixed all of that in No Mercy.
Did you guys ever play Royal Rumble for the SNES?
No, I have not.
That was a fun game.
I've seen it though. I can distinctly remember the art for it, but
that is where I actually first learned about wrestling.
Yeah.
And that's still where most of my wrestling knowledge comes from.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty good. That's not bad.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
Yeah. Yeah, so guys, if you're just joining us now, we are doing this podcast. It's our very first live podcast, and we're doing it so that we can raise money for the ALS Association. This Sunday, I'm doing the Walk to Defeat ALS, and I'm looking for $210. We are currently at $140, thanks to our wonderful viewing audience, or listening audience, I guess, would be more appropriate. But yeah, if you're listening to this and you like what you're hearing, we have a button that is a donation button. It's just a picture of us just below the stream window. If you're watching us on the Facebook streams, the thread underneath should have the donation link. If not, just speak up. I can go ahead and post the link up in the chat. Go ahead and be friendly in the chat, too, if you can, because we want to hear from you guys and talk about what you guys want to hear about, because we're very long-winded. We've done podcasts exceeding 3 hours that we've never even published onto the internet.
Still?
I think that actually
there's a couple.
I think
there's a couple.
There's one that actually still hasn't gone up. That is was an official podcast.
One?
It was no. The NES one went up right after we did it, where we talked about the best NES game ever.
Oh yeah. That's right.
That went up, and that was the last one to go up. But we had one before that where it was just you and me, Brent, and we were talking, and we were going to do a podcast that night, but it got canceled. But you and I were still hanging out, so we just decided to record it.
Oh, really? I can't remember that one.
Yeah, so that one's still floating around. I think all the other ones have been posted. Again, this is the hardest podcast to find on the internet.
Oh, yeah. That one didn't... That was just us bullshitting, though.
Yeah, but there's...
I guess that counts.
That's what a lot of them are, though.
That's pretty much, yeah.
Ever since I left Seattle, it's moved from being a guest-centric kind of a show to, like, just the three of us just bullshitting about video games.
Because that's for real, man.
Yeah, it's the realest shit in the world.
Having fucking people come on and be like, how are you? What's your opinion on this? On X, you know? Oh, okay.
I like doing the guest stuff. I mean, I think if we get interesting people, and a lot of the guests were just
No,
friends,
it's always fun talking to people. But, like, you got to be real is what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, I think we were good at that, though. I think we were, I don't know.
Oh, no, I'm not questioning. I'm talking real.
You know, Brent was actually just a guest that never left.
That's my regular status in life.
Danny is my co-host. Brent is just a squatter.
He's our filthy hobo hipster friend.
Yeah. No, but we love him, and we love that he's here, helping us raise money for ALS.
He's decent.
I give him a solid B+.
All right, sweet. That was a B+ student.
He's a 7. He's a 7 out of 10.
Hey, no, that's like a C, dude. That's a C-. That's a B.
No, here's the thing. Your body's a 7, but you got a kind of a hot face.
I got the B+ is an 89. Thank you.
Yeah, well, you got a 9 face and a 7 body, so it averages out.
That's true. I do. I'm working on that 7.
A 7 of 9, you would say?
Oh,
yeah.
Got him.
Bingo.
Let's talk about something else.
That was really bad.
Okay, King of Fighters 14.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well,
let's just make me sad.
Let's just get it out of the way, I think. So, King of Fighters, for the first time ever in their main series of games, is going 3D. Am I wrong there?
Technically,
because Maximum Impact was the 3D kind of spin-off. I assumed it was.
Yeah, Maximum Impact was a spin-off. It was 2006 in the U.S. for 2, which was just weird.
Yeah.
But 13 did use 3D models, but they just basically drew over them.
Right.
Yeah. Wasn't 11? Wasn't that 3D sprites?
No.
No.
Well, I mean, they used 3D models.
The backgrounds were 3D because they had switched to one of the Taito types, I believe.
Hmm.
So they had, I mean, they've used 3D models in the creation of their 2D sprites that you actually see in the game, and that's
yeah.
Fine. I mean, the first Killer Instinct did that too, you know. But as far as the actual model, so actually, you know what? We're going to do a little video here. So I'm going to bring the video up. I'm going to keep the volume off so we can keep talking about it. But I'm going to go ahead and just so people who haven't seen it can have a look-see at the King of Fighters 2000. King of Fighters 14.
What are we looking at? Oh yeah, that's right.
And now, okay, so the King of Fighters series is kind of known for carrying this 2D sprite torch in terms of 2D animation in a fighting game. They're especially recently, they've been absolutely beautiful. They're enormous sprites. They're like painted sprites. You know, they're not flat shaded like
they're like masters.
Yeah, they're just really good looking games. I mean,
they set the bar. They like reset the bar for the genre.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as character design and stuff, that's all subjective, of course, but they really did a good job, and now they are doing weird. I don't know. Like people have mentioned, it looks like a mobile game or something.
Yeah, it does.
So
maybe it is.
That's the thing, right? Because maybe it's. And I mentioned
it says PS4.
Right
there.
I believe the thing Ryan texted me was just free to play ?
Right. Because I mean that's the way a lot of competitive video games in general are going and have to go. And I'm not necessarily against seeing that because again, Street Fighter V is kind of taking a lot of cues from the popular esports, and I'm super happy about it. In fact, we even talked about how that's a good idea for Street Fighter V before they even announced Street Fighter V on this podcast. We're a bunch of Nostradamuses. And here we have
Nostradamus.
Thank you. Nostradamus. And here we have King of Fighters 14 and the quality, and it looks kind of low poly, and who knows, maybe they're doing something that's more taking cues from these MOBA things, and they're like, these games are fucking expensive, they're too niche to make any real money on. We want to stay in business.
So at the risk of sounding desperate, why don't you go ahead and read them my text message response to you?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Let me dig this out here. So I had said, yeah, like you said, I had said like free to play or something like that. There it is. And you said, yeah. Okay, you said, can't wait to see the dev diaries for King of Fighters 14. Quote, we spent millions of dollars making 2D sprites and animation and then drew over them with retro late 90s 3D models. Isn't that cool? So the opposite of their typical way of making things look good. It's like, I said, going free to play, you think? He says, maybe. Seems unlikely, though. My guess is that the game will be zoomed out more and is currently missing some visual filter magicianery.
Yeah, that's true.
That would make it okay. Otherwise, there's no excuse for the models looking that basic. It's not like they can't do 3D. Maximum Impact models, which we just talked about, looked fine for the mid-2000s, which is true. Again, they probably were more profitable in the mid-2000s as well, just as the type of company they are. I don't know. We can all just stab in the dark at why they took this direction, but
it looks like a kid's art project.
Yeah, I mean, as Josh says, the game looks like shit.
Yeah.
It's a very baffling.
Yeah, it's the characters don't
for people with for like a company with such strong art resources.
And that's the thing, right? Because I mean, we can look at something like Rising Thunder, right, where the characters are obviously like designed in such a way to accompany for a small company to work it out, right? I mean, they're robots; they don't have to have facial animations and all that squashing and stretching. You can kind of do any wacky thing with the animations that you want, and because they're giant robots, it looks fine. And like compared to this, I mean, you could say that these are better looking than those robots, but because we're so expectant, we expect King of Fighters to look like one of the best looking fighting games because they usually are.
The characters look like regular people cosplaying the characters, though. They don't even look like themselves.
Right, but again, if you were
just have no identity.
Again, if you were new, if you had never seen King of Fighters before and you saw this, maybe it's not as strange, maybe it's not as jarring, or maybe it looks fine. I don't know.
So they're banking on.
Well, they have to,
not
man.
Selling to everyone else.
Like they have to. I don't know.
That seems foolish.
Everyone has to. It's tough, right? Because you want to accommodate your hardcore audience always. But what if your hardcore audience is the most fickle, whiny bunch of gamers in the world?
Right. That's true.
So the other thing that had me slightly hopeful, I guess, was it seems like they're being partially funded by Sony for that game.
Oh, I see.
I don't remember where exactly it said that.
Well, if it's a PS4 exclusive, which we're not sure it is, I guess, but it says just PS4. Who knows?
Yeah.
And with we do know that they did that with Street Fighter V, and they're trying to make that, they're trying to corner that market, a competitive, maybe this is part of that same attack,
Yeah, and recent history has seen Microsoft sort of try to set up Killer Instinct as their the fighting game for them.
Right. Well, I mean, what else is there to say, I guess, until we see more or hear more?
Yeah, we just gotta wait and see.
Yep.
I mean,
That's fine.
let's. I think it's important to not forget that SNK is also capable of making bad games.
I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Because, in fact, the majority of the King of Fighters games are kind of terrible.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
almost why this is kind of sad to see it happening like this.
Right.
Yeah.
And that also, the reason there's been so much hope and maybe even a bit of shock about the look was that when they switched to the numbers system, it was because it allowed them to put more time into the games and I guess make them all good.
Right.
Or at least that was the idea.
It wouldn't have to be a yearly release. They could have a looser schedule.
Yeah, and I'm also kind of curious how long they've been working on this game too.
Oh yeah. I mean, you don't know. It's maybe it's something like a Killer Instinct level, where it's still a fairly small project comparatively to AAA games.
Well, it still makes you wonder why they would choose to release that trailer, because that trailer is not exciting.
I think that's I don't think that I think that's what the game's going to look like. I can't think of a time where I saw like the big announced trailer teaser thing look so vastly different from the final product.
Yeah, that's true.
It's also like, remember what King of Fighters 12 looked like compared to 13.
Right. Which was what for people who don't know?
So King of Fighters 12 was the beginning of the beautiful sprites in HD and stuff. And,
yes.
And they had like in their dev diaries all this stuff about how long it took to make each sprite. Like each frame took like, a million years for one drawer to do, and
right.
all their art team was skeletons.
Right.
And then like the game comes out and like the gameplay is pretty barren.
Yeah.
The backgrounds are like very kind of emotionless, and I mean the models look great, but then it's like so zoomed in that it looks kind of weird, and like some of the animations were kind of questionable.
Right.
But then 13 comes out using the same sprites for the most part, adding some more stuff, and then everything's sort of revamped. They zoomed out, so everything looks gorgeous. And then like all this extra stuff is added. They had some, like I think they added post round animations. Like when you win and you're like, yeah,
right.
Which were absent in 12. They kind of just stood there in their neutral stance, and then the round ended.
Or if you lose via timeout, and they go, "Oh no!"
Yeah. So it was kind of interesting to see 13 become the game everybody wanted 12 to be.
That's true. Did you play 12 that much, Danny?
No, I hated it. It was awful.
I played it like no, I didn't play a lot. There was no reason to, but I played it like a bit, and it was just the weirdest thing. It was like all the elements for the fighting game were there, but it was just the most boring, nothing game for some reason.
I was so excited for it. I believe it was my senior year of high school when it was announced. I would go to the computer lab during my lunch and watch trailers of it over and over again.
Josh says KOF 14 should have been Dream Match with Yamazaki. Any thoughts?
Everybody likes Yamazaki.
It's because he's cool. He fights with his hand in his pocket. Whoa, so cool.
I know.
So aloof. He doesn't even care. Seriously, though, SNK bosses are badass, and
they're all pretty great.
They're some of the best bosses of any video game. Like, if you had a top 10 video game bosses, I personally would put at least 3 of them in the top 10 would be SNK bosses.
Yeah. Who would those happen to be?
Who would they be?
Who would they be?
Yamazaki, of course, because he's got his hand in his pocket.
No, you got to place him too, though.
Oh, he'd be 7th.
No, really? I thought, okay, you were doing top 3, but...
Oh, top 3. I don't know if they'd make top 3, though. They'd be somewhere in the top 10, but I haven't worked out the details. Geese would be in there.
Rugel's pretty cool.
Rugel's awesome. Krauser, anyone?
Yeah, I guess Krauser. Some people really like Krauser.
Krauser's okay.
You can put Orochi down near like 87 or something like that. He's a crap boss. Did you ever play that?
Yeah. What's his
it's like
face?
Fighting Goku.
What's his face from the end of Goro? Right?
No. Kane.
Yes, right.
Mm-hmm.
With the magic
Grant,
coat.
Actually.
Oh, Grant. Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm. through the swirl kicks.
Yeah, yeah.
I think Kane was like a more interesting boss because it was like there's like fireballs and people have powers and grow, but it wasn't like super overstated, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then like Kane comes in and he's kind of this like dainty looking guy, and then he just like kicks the shit out of you, and his like win pose is he like turns into a giant flaming cross, and you're just kind of like, oh whoa, like this guy is clearly a beast.
Right. So, real quick, I just want to stop and say, anybody listening who's joined us most recently and hearing us talk about fighting games and things, we are doing a podcast that we've done since early 2014, on average of once every maybe 2 months, and this is our very first time doing it live, and we're doing it live as a special way to try and raise money for the ALS Association. This Sunday, I'm participating in the Walk to Defeat ALS. And it's my job to raise $210, and I've decided to do it this way. So if you are listening and you are enjoying the show, go ahead and click the picture of us below the stream window to donate to the ALS Association on our behalf, and we would very much appreciate it. And if you'd like to hear us talk about something in particular, go ahead and donate, and we'll talk about anything you want. So, and again, thanks for listening if you are listening. So we're going to do one more fighting game thing, and then we're going to move on to Metal Gear. Oh my god, Metal Gear.
Sure, you can just ask the question.
That is the question we are going to do. Let's see. What's the best fighting game that looks terrible? I love this question, by the way.
Best fighting game that looks terrible?
Mm-hmm. I think I have an answer. I have two answers, but they're both very similar for what we're talking about. Jackie Chan Fist of Fire. I can play that, and Duncan can attest to this, because I've sat and played Fist of Fire against Duncan for hours and hours. And for the same reason, I love this game, even though it's absurdly broken and totally stupid. Survival Arts. Also kind of digitized photos of actors, but like the sprites are enormous, and it was a Sammy game, and it's so absurd. It's just, I love it.
Yeah, that's hard. I don't really play bad looking games.
Josh says balls.
I got one. This actually goes back to what we were talking about. It's,
Pat sounds very passionate about this. He says dead or alive.
Dead or alive.
Power Instinct. That's interesting because that.
Power Instinct looks great.
That's what I thought. Yeah, maybe it's because he's thinking like because they were fairly small sprites for the time. But that's the thing. Fighting games are kind of they're known for their animations, and it's funny. It's tough to find a shitty one. But what are you gonna say, Brent? I'm sorry.
Did you ever play Tag Team Wrestling on the NES?
Yes, absolutely.
That is a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
And it's kind of a fighting game, but no one would really like ever play that again. But if you remember playing it, it's like what we were talking about, the button mashing. Yeah. It was actually a really fun game.
Yeah.
And I would just play that shit. We'd go like 50 rounds.
Right. There you go. That's a good answer. I think that's a good answer.
Yeah. So I think that one's mine.
Oh, also Street Fighter 4.
Oh yeah, God. but it's not the best game. Like it's not a good game.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's okay.
It's funny, and I think this, and I feel like this is not. I want more people to consider this because I'm not sure if people would agree with me or not, but I think it's true. Like, I think there's this thing where people correlate really, really popular games, especially in like competitive and esports and stuff like that, with the quality of game it is. Like there must be something to Street Fighter 4 because look at how deep they've gotten, look how much people have looked into it. But I always think like if a shit ton of people went in super hard on any game that you could think of, that we discover all sorts of wacky shit, or that it would hit a certain level. Like it's not true of everything, but I feel like there are tons of games like that, where people say like this game's too easy or this game's too hard. But if it's a game where it's about playing it against another human being, like what does that even mean, right? Like, what do you mean? It's too easy, therefore both players will always win? What the fuck does that mean? It's meaningless. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Like a game's too hard, therefore nobody. It's like at some point you have to think like, what if the effort people put into dissecting Street Fighter 4, which is the most dissected Street Fighter game ever,
absolutely,
Absolutely.
The pure volume of people playing it and analyzing it is absurd.
Right, like
It got
what if...
chewed on by the internet, man.
say it again, I'm sorry.
It got chewed on by the internet.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. It just is just the timing, and it's the fact that it was Street Fighter. And
That's a hard, stale piece of gum. All the flavors out.
right. And I mean, Third Strike kind of got the same treatment to a lesser degree, but I feel like that's one of those games that's just been exhausted. You've seen what you're going to see in Third Strike, and I still love it. Still probably my favorite fighting game ever. But like, you know, even if you love it, you have to kind of be like, you know, it's fun for a bit, but you know, I definitely feel like something new. But anyway, that's just a thought. Like, I feel like I'd want to. I don't know.
Well,
I
is there
want
a
to
perfect game?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I think technically, like looking at the animations, I think Fist of the North Star is kind of ugly because their animations are like super bad.
Yeah, yeah.
But the problem with that game in calling it bad looking is that thematically and like just the sprites themselves are so perfect for like the subject material that it's just impossible to call it bad.
When Rao comes out on his horse and his horse doesn't even fit on the goddamn screen.
Yeah.
It's a big horse.
This must be like the only one too.
yeah.
But oh yeah, so no answer. Hey, let's see.
Yeah.
Do you guys think there is a perfect game, or what would be your perfect game if you could only play a game? You had to play it over and over and over. It was the only game you could ever play.
Wow, that's such a big question. I don't know. I feel like you'd probably have way more simulation elements than like an embarrassing amount of. I feel like every game I've ever really, really loved or been blown away by has just added that sim level of functionality and like variables and AI and stuff like that. I mean, that might be a good segue into Metal Gear because that's the same reason why Phantom Pain is blowing people away, I think.
Oh yeah, everyone's on that.
Yeah.
Phantom Pain is pretty great.
Yeah. It's a big ass game. I can't believe it.
It's so huge.
There's just so much stuff. I mean, every time you think you've got, I mean, you'll get like 3/4 of the way through the main story, and it'll be like, oh, by the way, you've just unlocked the multiplayer, and you're like, the what? And you're like, the FOB system, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, I poured 20 hours into this, and now I get to see, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's so much stuff like that, you know. And I remember, funny, it was today somewhere on Facebook, someone I didn't realize, I don't know, just posted something about, they're like, hey man, it'd be cool to see like a new, it was about the Konami going, officially announcing that they're not making any more video games, pretty much. Surprise, surprise. No. And someone was like, yeah, that sucks because I'd like to see a new Metal Gear. I mean, like 5 is pretty good, but like I feel like it lays the groundwork for something that could be even bigger and crazier. I'm like, that's fucking insane. like there's like half of a percent of the people who are like playing that game seriously will actually exhaust everything there is to, and that's true of even Metal Gear Solid 4 and 3. I think those games were really, there's so much shit in them.
So is this like his magnum opus? His last love letter?
Last hurrah, and it's really, really fun. So I don't know how far you've gotten in it, Dan.
I'm not that far. I'm still on like mission 19 or 20 in the story.
So have you gotten to the FOB missions yet? Because that's around when you get the unlocked.
Yeah, I think I unlocked them.
Yeah. So those are interesting. And I guess I don't know if we should worry about spoilers at this point. I feel like it's all over everywhere. Just Metal Gear stuff.
Just give a spoiler warning.
Yeah, spoiler warning. Here it is. But yeah, like partway through a mission, I think it's like mission 21, you'll just be called back and be like, hey, there's an emergency mission you need to go on. Something's happening. And you're like, what? And it's like you can go to the menu and choose to be like, abort this mission immediately and go to the emergency mission? And you're like, okay, yes. And if you hit yes, it's not something where normally you'd have to call in the helicopter to bring you back or whatever. You just immediately go. And you arrive back at your base, and your base has been taken over by an enemy force, and you have to like find and kill their leader. And this is just a training, kind of a tutorial level for what the multiplayer is, where the base building aspect of the game is part kind of... at first it seems like something you do just to make your team stronger and to build more resources and stuff, and later you find out that you can use it as a multiplayer.
Yeah, and you're like, what do I need these gun emplacements for?
Right,
Why do I have to pick these up?
Yeah, and then so now they're doing like, you can invade everyone else's bases and like try to, if you can sneak into them undetected, then you get to like take all their resources and all their guys and shit. But like, if the player is online when you invade their base, they won't even get a message from you. They won't even get a message that they're being invaded until you've been spotted by one of their guards.
Oh, that's cool.
That's awesome. I love that because there's so many games that have. There's a few games that have try to do stealth multiplayer, right? Like we played the Splinter Cell games that had like 2 spies versus 2, security guards or whatever. And the problem with like stealth multiplayer is that there's always people sneaking and other people trying to it's like hide and seek, right? But the seeker always knows because he's playing a video game with people that there's someone who's like sneaky, someone who's invisible that they're trying to find, right? They're not behaving like the way like an actual security guard at a mall would behave, not knowing that someone is there, right? So here they've kind of solved that problem for the first time that I've ever seen, where they're like, okay, well, you're not actually going up against another player directly. You're going up against a base full of AI guys that a player has set up to try and make sure that nobody can infiltrate, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of get to do a little set and forget, like, you get to make your own Metal Gear level. And if other people can get through it undetected, then they get to take your shit. But, if you put everything just right and you can set what kind of armor your guys wear, what kind of guns they carry, you can set, like you said, the gun emplacements, mortars and C4 and mines and traps and things like this. And if you just set it up just the right way and you deck out your dudes with all the right shit, then you'll you'll be destroying actual players, and I think that solves that problem of like the stealth multiplayer.
You get to build a mousetrap.
Exactly, and it's going to function the way that it was realistic, right? As opposed to let's join a game, me versus Dan, and I'm sneaking into Dan's base, and Dan obviously knows that someo's sneaking into his base.
I'm just running around my base looking for someone.
Right. In reality, everyone's just like hanging out. Guards are picking their noses and shit. It's just a great. I think it's great. And I think it's actually a downplayed element of this game, even though it's as huge as it is. I think most people are, obviously focused on the single player because there's so much to that.
I was going to say, if you want to get real nasty, you could add like sim elements, and you have to like feed the guys and like take care of the food and stuff like that. If you want to get real deep, you could make like a whole series out of that.
So there is some of that. You do have to like visit your guys to increase their morale, and the morale drops, then like they'll get into fights, and if they get into fights or get violent, they'll be thrown in the brig, at which point they are useless and can't be used to your advantage in any way.
Or they'll be in the med bay because they got hurt.
Right. And like how highly ranked are your medical staff, and that will depend how quickly they get healed up and back on the action and stuff. So there are.
That's cool.
Yeah, there is some stuff like that in this game, which is
there's management.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's like troublemaker guys and diplomats, and you have to like find the right balance, or just fire all the troublemakers.
So like
it's a lot of fun.
You get your staff by literally abducting them from the battlefield, and you can find ways. You have like binoculars, and you look at a guy through binoculars. You scan them, and it'll show them their skills. They're an A+ combat guy, but they're a C- R&D guy. And as you upgrade Snake and all of his gear, you can see the more details about these guys and if they're like someone that you would want to kidnap to force to be part of your team or not. And sometimes it'll list skills, or sometimes it'll say that he has a skill. This character has a skill, but it won't say which skill it is. And sometimes that skill is like super, like he's like a master gunsmith. And sometimes, but sometimes it's like he's an asshole. And so
it's kind of like a question mark with an icon. There's like different kinds of icons.
Yeah, right? And sometimes you don't know until you've abducted him and already brought him in, and it turns out he's an asshole, and he just starts fights with everyone, and you're like, God damn it. So, and you can kick him out if you want, but then sometimes you'll be like, listen.
And it can escalate too. I think soldiers can even die because of stuff like this.
Yeah. I think that if morale is low enough, they will actually kill each other.
Oh damn.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. There's so many games I want to play right now, but that's just too much work to go through to it.
For me, that aspect of the game is kind of like Fire Emblem Awakening, where like a secondary mechanic kind of almost takes over the game.
Right.
Like in Fire Emblem Awakening, it's like like the it's not really spoilers, but like part of the plot is that your children from the future come, and you kind of get to figure out who their parents are, by like sort of putting them together and like making them fall in love. And so you can basically do this like sim game where you're like changing children and changing stats, and like they look different, and their brother or sister may be different.
Yep.
And it's like it's definitely the most fun part of the game.
Right.
Because it becomes like Harvest Moon with like soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just hilarious, and it's amazing. Like something I would never thought I'd get like so caught up in something like that.
Right. And now they got Metal Gear Online, which is coming out in October, which I'm really looking forward to, and they're releasing a lot of information on this, which is the third iteration of Metal Gear Online, which is the best. I called the last version. I always called it the best game you never played, because it was so impossible. Because this game was released only on PS3, and it was before the PS3 had any matchmaking system built into their PSN at all. There was no trophies, even, none of this. And so, like, to play this online game and to have an account and everything, you'd have to go. It would be something set up specifically by the publisher, by the developer, and so you're relying on that entirely. And so, in this case, you relied on Konami, and you had to go onto their website and get a Konami code, which had to be, which had to have an 8-letter password that could only be numbers, and it was just a mess. It was such a pain in the ass to even get an account for this game. But once you get on there, it was just really weird, really interesting.
It's so fun.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into too much detail about MGO and how much I love it, but it's definitely its own thing. There's not much else like it out there, and it's really fun. And I think this version is definitely going to have way more people playing it than any of the other past ones. Just from the sheer popularity of Metal Gear 5. Mario Maker.
Oh yeah,
Mario Maker.
The best game that everybody is playing.
Fuck.
Except for Brent.
It makes me want a Wii U more than anything.
I know. You're saying, like, I can't stand watching these people play this game. This is one of the only games in, like, maybe, I don't know, generations that I've been like, wow, I need that game. I want that game.
Right. So I have some questions about the game because I have not played it. I've only watched other people and seen their levels and stuff. But before we get into that, on the point that we just made about making it want people when the Wii U first came out, and I feel like there's just a lot of talk about like, oh, this is like Mario Paint. This is like a no-brainer layup thing. They're going to have some kind of Mario Paint thing because it has a stylus, and it's just, it just goes hand in hand with the whole concept behind the console. And this is kind of the closest thing to that. In fact, there are, as I've read, a lot of references to Mario Paint in this, right?
Right.
And I wonder if this was the big launch game, if it would have changed things, because it's
for the Wii U.
For the Wii U, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's so appealing. It's done something that, I mean, there have been a million games and a million programs and PC things that make your own levels, especially in the kind of grid-style 2D thing. It's been done a million times before, but it's never been like this approachable. It's never been this like designed as its own game, making a game as a game.
Right.
Yeah.
And it
was always a little bit. Even the ones I downloaded, they're just kind of unwieldy. They're hard to use.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, the idea is that they would be because you're using it to make a game, and so people like even Little Big Planet kind of struggled with like, we want it to be so so limitless that you can make entire other games inside of our game that where you can control the logic of everything. And here they're like, listen, that's fine, and people who are really, really initiated will take advantage of that, but most people aren't, and most people will be intimidated by something like this. Most people will look at a game like that and think, oh Christ, this is like work, or like they want to be creative, but they feel like there's a big wall there. They want to have fun first and foremost. And here's a game that can finally let people do that. It's so intuitive. It's so much like a game. The logic is all just. I mean, what? So again, correct me if I'm wrong.
The logic is your childhood, basically.
Right. You just like
I know you already know how everything's going to work.
I know what a Koopa Troopa does, and you pick him up, and if you shake him, he turns from a green one to a red one, and you're like, oh, okay, I know what red ones are versus green ones.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the logic is that you get to. Yeah. Everyone gets to fulfill their childhood fantasy of being a game maker.
Right.
So let me tell you guys about the tutorial level, because I don't know if you've seen this.
Playing it.
Go ahead. What is the tutorial level?
The tutorial level is the very first level of Super Mario Bros. But instead of the end of the stage having the pillar where you kind of run up and then like jump off and grab the flag, there's nothing. you fall off at the end, and it's like, oh no, like the stage isn't complete. You should complete it.
Yeah.
And literally everyone knows what the first level of Mario looks like.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so instead of like a bunch of text dialogues that are like, hey, you should drop this here, there's like some little drawings on the background.
Right.
It's just like an image of a box or a Koopa, and it's like, oh, drag and drop. Oh, okay, cool.
Yep.
And you finish the first level of Mario.
Right.
Oh, it's cool.
It's like it's one of the best tutorials ever. It's literally like the philosophy of kind of, you know, like the wordless tutorial through gameplay, like encapsulated and perfected. Almost.
Yeah,
Like
that's what I'm saying.
Like show, don't tell.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I think. That's what people are saying. Like this game exemplifies that show don't tell, you know, and it's just the perfect thing for this, and it's kind of unique for Nintendo to do a thing like this, right? I mean, it's a little. I mean, again, they've done like stuff like Mario Paint, where it is, you know, they made a game once where it was make your own cartoons and stuff. So it's just cool to see them make something like this. A company that's very, very kind of formulaic and by the books about what they do and what they don't do, you know. So now explain this to me, because I knew that there's like different tile sets, right? There's the original NES Mario Brothers tiles, right? And graphics and stuff. And then there's Mario.
Yeah, so at the very beginning of the game, you have the Super Mario 1 set and like the Super Mario set, and then the new Super Mario set.
Right.
Where it kind of turns into the Wii U era-esque assets.
Right.
And then you unlock some more as time progresses, posting levels and whatnot.
Yeah.
I actually haven't unlocked a lot of stuff yet. But it does tell you, I think, like when you make your first level, it's like, by the way, some more stuff is going to be released on this date.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, I think if you post your first level to Miiverse, it's like, oh, you posted to Miiverse, like, here's some stuff or whatever.
I'm just guessing. Is the second level is Super Mario Brothers 2 in America? That one's not in there, right?
Now that I've heard that's largely ignored as part of, like, it's not really, they treat it almost like it's not canon, right?
Yeah, people do that, but I don't know, man. So much good stuff came out of that game.
I don't mean. I'm saying this game does that.
I don't know for sure. I haven't gotten anything or really looked at much about the game.
All I can confirm, because I looked for this specifically, there is no Phanto. Okay.
Oh, he's just check.
Yeah. What I'd love to know is whether or not there's the sun that chases you from Mario 3. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, you should. You could set it up with like 5 of those.
Right, just those. You know, it's funny because I feel like that's like probably one of the most popular like design things people are doing with Mario Maker. Right? It's like, what if I took this one enemy but there were like a million of them? You know?
Yeah, it's very entertaining to do that.
Yeah, it's got to be hard to resist.
My favorite thing is that it kind of puts you in the head of a designer. You're like,
right.
I want to make a good Mario level because you've experienced, you know, Mario levels. You kind of know what's good and what's not.
Yep. Sometimes you might think you do until you get seat.
And then you try to make it, and it's like, this is pretty difficult.
Right.
And one of the coolest things I've seen is that Polygon and I'm sure some other sites do it too. Is that they have like actual game developers make levels in Mario Maker. Like earlier this week, they had Koji Igarashi of Castlevania fame make a level, and it was a haunted house level, of course.
Is his level on YouTube?
Yes.
All right, we're gonna bring that up.
And you can play it too, right? Have you played it?
You can like download any of these, right?
In the comments, they posted that. No, it's on like the press version. Mm-hmm. So I think the servers were different.
I see.
Is what
the Japanese are saying.
Why wouldn't they do that in? That drives me crazy. Why wouldn't they do that public? Maybe they will later, but. Oh my gosh!
Maybe it is, but
yeah. Well, I'm sure.
I'm
sure there are plenty of like designers and developers doing this of their own accord at home, you know, and posting it on their Twitters and stuff.
Yeah. But like it was so cool because, for one, um, Iga is exclusively referring to Bowser as Koopa.
Right, yeah.
And he like brings up this like super awesome point about just kind of design and like turning things on its head.
Yeah.
Where he like just drags a Bowser and puts it right at the very beginning of the level, and he's like, I wanted to do this because it like turns it on its head, because Bowser's always at the end of the stage.
Right.
But it's like, what if you spawn and he's right there, and you're like, ah.
And you just got to deal with him the whole stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
We're playing the video now, and showing us his level with this concept.
Oh, I have to watch this.
In his any updates or any word on Bloodstained that you've heard of or excited about or anything like that?
The last stuff I remember was from their PAX, the conference they had there, which I attended in person with Hellsap,
right?
Of Portland fame.
Mm-hmm. Of course, he's
super awesome guy.
Yeah, local hero in the area.
And
the Brent Cleary of Portland.
Yeah,
Is
pretty much. And the thing they announced was like customizable, like sort of outfit things for the main character.
Mm-hmm.
And like they had this, of course, super awesome concept art for it. And they sort of played at the thing that a lot of indie developers have been doing recently, is like sort of having characters within each other's games.
Yep.
And so they had, I believe it was Gunvolt from Mighty Gunvolt. Mm-hmm. They had like a outfit from one of the characters from that game, which is owned by Inti Creates, the developers for Bloodstained.
Right.
It's just really neat.
Yeah. Now I'm just thinking about all these Kickstarter games that have been sitting for a while, and they've kind of like they've gotten past that point of that initial like super hype point and seeing how they're surviving.
Right.
There's like what was the Mega Man? Oh God, I'm forgetting. Inafune.
Mighty Number 9.
Mighty Number 9. I've heard like people are kind of cooling off on, or there's a lot of people who are like worried about it, or not that excited, or they're disappointed with what's come out so far.
Yeah, if you look at it, it just doesn't look very dynamic, I think is the best word for it.
Right.
It just kind of seems flat gameplay, kind of flat like character and design, and enemies and background and everything about it.
So just art-wise is the issue?
I think they posted a run through of the first level, I believe, and it kind of like didn't look that great, and it kind of didn't look like what people expected, right? Like what people expected is the concept art.
It just seems very generic. Everything about it seems incredibly generic, and that's kind of what people. Yeah, no one was expecting that.
Yeah, and I feel like there was a lot more scrutiny put on Inafune himself after that. Like especially a comment from was it? It was Shinji Mikami, the Devil May Cry guy, I believe. They asked him to comment about Mighty Number 9 and Inafune, and if they asked if he was like a good creator or something like that, and he said Inafune is not a creator, he's a businessman.
Right. That's ruffled some feathers, did it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought it was very interesting because that's kind of an interesting way to look at it. And it may or may not be true. I don't know. I don't hang out with the guy.
Sure. Yeah.
He's made some pretty good games though. He was on Dead Rising.
Well, in what capacity though?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean that's kind of what we were talking about with the Nintendo has finally assigned a new president of the company. Tatsumi Kimishima, and I guess the way that's being reported is like, oh, he's the head of HR, and he's like very much a businessman, and people are worried because all of the figurehead Nintendo executives are like these smiling, happy characters who put themselves in goofy videos, but this guy just looks like a businessman, and you're like, well, you know, as much as we, it's like
he is a businessman.
Right, he is the president of a huge corporation. Like, shouldn't he be a businessman? I mean, we forget, Miyamoto for 15 years now has been an executive,
Should he be in charge of fun? Should he be like the
Right,
president
exactly.
of the Fun Corporation?
Right.
It's just I met with the manager of GameWorks once.
Oh, yeah.
To talk about holding a tournament there, and he was like, "I don't play these video games," and I was like, oh, "This is not going to go well." Immediately.
Right.
Like shit. Okay, he's like a restaurant owner, and
right.
I
Of course,
guess he just runs it.
Well, that's where they make their money in something like a barcade, like Dave and Buster's or a GameWorks. Is they sell it because they can sell beer and wings and shit. The video games don't really make them that much money. They're just kind of a flavor thing. Yeah, it's a way to differentiate their restaurant from other restaurants.
Right. It's just a novelty.
Right. You and I and Brent. You and I and Dan are like the only types of weirdos who are like looking at GameWorks and being like, "Oh, cool, an arcade,"
Yeah.
Everyone else is like, "Let's get blasted," and like, "Hey, remember skee ball?"
They don't have enough skee ball, man.
You sound like one of them. You sound like one of these guys already. These filthy casuals. If you're just joining us now, which not sure if we've got any new people joining the stream, but if you have, what we're doing tonight is we are raising money for ALS Association. We're doing a special live podcast, and we're trying to interact with the chat and raise some money, and we'll talk about anything you guys want us to talk about. We're going to hang out for a little bit longer here. We've already made some good progress. We're trying to make $210. We so far have raised $140. Not too shabby.
Be really awesome. And it is a bit of a shame. It's got to be said that we're not together in person.
It is, yeah. We should explain that. Yeah, so I'm running the stream from Rhode Island, and Brent and Danny here are out of Seattle, and they're just kind of Skyping in, and we're just kind of that would kind of explain the less than perfect, the less than ideal audio that we're getting here. We're kind of just going everything through Skype. So.
Oh really? Right. I'm hearing you guys perfectly.
Oh yeah. It comes through. It's strange because like with Skype and the capture system that OBS uses or that our MP3 recorders use when we record the podcast, I can't change the levels of everyone. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's really tough for us to all hear each other the way that it's going to turn out or the way that it's being broadcast right now.
Oh really?
I'll be right back.
But I feel like people would have said something if one of us was inaudible or something. But I can hear everybody okay. But so this is not a traditional maybe I don't know what a traditional podcast is, but we're all in the same room, which is how it started out. We started this January 2014, and we'd all just be in the basement together, huddled around.
Really? January 2014?
It's been that long already, a year and a half.
Man.
Yeah, we'd all huddle around against one microphone and hope that it would pick everything up, and it did okay.
Yeah.
And it was
I was never sure.
Yeah, and we talked about earlier, this used to be more of a guest-centric. Every show you'd have a new person, usually just one of our friends on, whoever just wanted to talk about anything at all, and it was pretty good. So yeah, and Josh is still listening here. What's up, Josh? And he says everything seems balanced, so as long as everybody can hear us, we're fine. But it is a less than ideal setup. Obviously, it'd be better if we were all in the same room.
Josh, are you still at the gym? You were at the gym when we started.
This guy lives at the gym.
You're a beast if you're still at the gym.
You're a beast if you're typing while lifting.
Yeah, that's true.
Actually, that's just sounds unsafe. Don't do that.
Yeah. Get real good at that.
Well, maybe he's on maybe he's on a treadmill or he's on a bike, stationary bike or something where he can. Oh, he says he just got done. That's still
just finished up.
Let's see. He's been there for about an hour and a half. That's not too bad.
It's a long time.
Yeah. Maybe
He's
it's
probably
not
there before we started.
Maybe it's. I mean, who knows? We don't know what kind of workout he's doing. I mean, maybe he needs long rest periods.
Hey, no judging. No judging.
No, I don't know. Tell us about your workout.
Yeah.
And we'll tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Show us.
That's great radio. Like, well, I've been lifting, like.
But you say that, but I feel like more often than not, I get these podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcasts that are kind of at least somewhat wrestling related. So I have one hosted by Jim Ross and one hosted by Steve Austin, and of course one that used to be hosted by the late great Roddy Piper.
Oh yeah.
And they
Did
would
just
have
talk about working out a lot?
well, no, but a lot of the guests they would have on would be athletes of some kind, and so that would be the question, talking about their diet or their exercise and whatever kind of weird thing that they were doing to stay in shape or condition themselves, or how much insane amounts of calories certain guys would take in. One of them was
that's true.
telling a story about how JR was talking about how he had sat down with Brock Lesnar when they were in town together just to have dinner together, and apparently Brock Lesnar will routinely eat 6 steaks for dinner, plus the sides and everything. But they'll go to a steakhouse, and he'll take in like 8,000 calories worth of steaks for dinner.
Oh,
and it was something absolutely obscene. I was like, that's insane. But I guess it makes sense. The guy's, like 300 pounds of muscle and can still run a 4-minute mile at 40 years old.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yep.
That's scary, man.
Josh says he was lazy today, so he was just on a treadmill. That's good, though. That's a good podcast workout to just doing cardio.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm back.
We're just talking about Josh's workout.
So,
and how Brock Lesnar eats 6 steaks for dinner.
I'm somewhat judgmental of people that like are on treadmills and just like watch TV, because I would usually run outside. So I was on like this high horse, right? Like, oh,
Sure.
okay, I'm running outside. You're running a treadmill watching TV. You're not as real. But then I'm just thinking about the fact that it's like, if you're running on a treadmill and you're watching TV, I'm usually on my computer sitting on my ass. So maybe it's better to just be on a treadmill watching TV.
Plus, you're like running to look good. You're not,
Yeah, let's stop talking. Let's stop acting like anybody's at the gym for health reasons, and it's not entirely not entirely for vanity's sake, right? Mm-hmm. It's the same thing when people are like, oh man, I can't stand when I go outside and I see these people who are all out of shape. It's like, don't you know your health's at risk? Like, you don't give a shit about their health. Shut up. You don't care about their health.
You're just a dick.
You're just repulsed by a fat person.
And I'm always like 100% honest about why I work out. I work out to look good.
Yeah, because when you look good, you feel good, and when you feel good, you do.
I want to look cute and feel cute, not just look cute.
Well, Patrick says this is the most Patrick thing I've ever heard. I used to get on the stationary bike in college and watch Gladiator. Everyone tells me about Pat's fascination with ancient Rome. I never hear it directly from him though, but this is great to hear it for the first time.
He gives good lectures about it. It's a lot of fun.
Lectures? That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Like history kind of?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Really? You studied it that much? That's cool.
Pat, what's your favorite Roman god? We'll wait for your answer in silence. In reverent silence.
Yeah. Wait, each time you ask him, I'm like, what are we doing? His answer is yes.
Yes.
Indeed.
Awesome. Well, there you go. Well, we'll still keep an eye out for his answer. This is important to me. I've heard about this.
I wanted to talk briefly about the Republican presidential debates and how the God of War.
Mars. How would Mars... Okay, Mars versus Ares. That's a good matchup.
Ares!
But I wanted to talk about
the Republican debate.
The Republican presidential debates.
The most recent... Oh, there's been 2 so far for the primaries.
Yeah. Did you guys watch them?
I saw the first one. And I kind of listened to the second one from the other room.
They are some of like the best TV that you can possibly watch.
Oh,
I think.
Yeah. I mean, I've thought that about I love the primaries more than the general election, because the primaries are like this rogues gallery. There's just this bunch of Batman villains up on a stage.
Pretty much.
It's just this huge cast of crazy people. It's great, and there's so many of them now. I feel like
I know.
I feel like in 2000 for the 2012 and 2008 elections, they got like maybe 6 or 7 guys. And now I feel like there's 20.
No, there was a lot last time.
Was there?
There was a lot. It was a pretty big field last time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's still bigger this time, because this time I think they know they're kind of on the upswing. It just as it kind of naturally happens, and things go between Republican and Democrat throughout, government. There's just this pendulum swing, and it's kind of swinging in their favor. Right. And so they're kind of they're just climbing over each other.
Right. So of course the
see you, Josh.
Yeah, we'll see you, Josh. No, it's Pat is going.
Oh.
Pat is walking home. He'll be back.
Oh, see you, Pat.
So the centerpiece of the Republican debates right now is obviously Donald Trump. For whatever reason you want to.
You know exactly why. Don't pretend like you don't know why.
Well, I was
super entertaining.
Right. Oh yeah, of course. But I mean, I feel like there's got to be somebody out there who's like looking at it. I mean, I have people who are looking at him as a serious candidate out of fear, like they're worried he's being a serious candidate, or that he is legit shot at being the president.
He's making it seem possible.
And there's other people who are taking him seriously because they actually like him and wanted to vote for him and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, like Tom Brady.
Did Tom Brady say that?
Tom Brady endorsed him for president.
Wow.
And that can't be real.
The very first thing I thought was, oh, I'm so sorry, Ryan. Now you're going to have to deal with Patriots fans who are also like Trump president guys.
I know. It's going to happen. It's so intense here. It's so gross, and I hate it because last Sunday I wanted to watch. They had the Hawks game at. I was at like a kid's birthday party, and they had it on though, and I was going to watch it. I'm like, oh, cool, the game's on. That's great. So we can watch the game. But like I forgot that I was surrounded by Patriots fans and just the most intolerable stuff. Oh my God, they're the worst people on the planet. So I literally was like out in the backyard with the kids on the bouncy house, just checking the score periodically on my phone. I'm like, I can't like sit in that room with those people because they're just because now now they hate Seattle. They didn't know Seattle was a team or even a place until earlier this year. But now, I mean, they treat it like it's been some long-time rivalry.
Right.
Yeah.
We were always at war with Eurasia.
Right.
We were always at war with Oceania.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah. Oh, God, I hate the Patriots, and I hate their fans. You know what? I just hate their fans. Honestly, I have nothing against the actual team. In fact, I'll watch their games. They're fun to play, and Tom Brady is a good quarterback. He can't act like he's not.
Nope. He's a good quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, that's another conversation. I don't know if this is the right audience for this.
Yeah, it's all good.
But best quarterback of all time. I don't know if you guys have opinions on this kind of a thing. What would you?
Yeah.
Where would you go? Because I think that Tom Brady lands in the top 3 for me.
Warren Moon.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Wow, I never heard that one.
He's held the passing record in both the CFL and the NFL at the same time. And he broke the long history ones.
Right.
So he's basically was, for the span that he was actually playing football, the best person to have ever played football.
Wow, that's great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a great answer. Just because usually this turns into, every time I've seen this come up, it's always Tom Brady versus Joe Montana for best quarterback ever. Right.
And I feel like Moon never gets enough credit. And it's like, have you looked at his numbers? Did you see what he did his first 3 or 4 years in the NFL?
Right.
He was basically Adonis.
Right. And it's interesting. It's also a conversation. It's funny because you talk about kind of best of all times in sports, right? Like we've got.
Plus, he's a Husky, which helps.
Right. You talk about best of all time in sports, and with boxing, people are like, oh, who would it be? Floyd Mayweather versus Mike Tyson versus Muhammad Ali. Who's the best ever? People talk about LeBron versus Michael Jordan, best ever. But football, for some reason, it's always position. You know what I mean? No one ever does that. No one's ever like, who's the best point guard of all time? It's just they don't care. Everyone's just like, everyone just wants to go between the two, the binary, who's the best basketball player? Who are you? It's Magic versus Larry Bird, whatever. I don't know. Football's interesting in that way, but
we have to give a shit about the game to get that minutia.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, you got to care that exists before you can even have an opinion on it.
So you're saying football fans are the most passionate sports fans in the world, American football?
That is, that's what I'm saying. If there's anyone from New England listening,
I don't know who's listening now. Let's see if we have this. Oh, so it's our viewers are Zaffo999, Brento Box, Heavy D,
hey,
and Joshimitsu.
Oh, Joshimitsu.
Yep.
You should chat more.
He should. Well, he's just coming off the workout, so maybe
he's busy. He's busy lifting.
He's a busy bee.
He's got gains, man. Gains to achieve.
Well, maybe we could take this downtime to maybe post up one more time before we wrap things up for the night, but just on whatever your accounts are. Josh has been pretty good about that. He's been posting all night on our behalf.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
On Twitter and Facebook.
See if I can do that.
How do you feel about Cam Chancellor and this whole holdout?
I think he looks real bad.
You don't think it's gonna work out you don't think he's playing on Sunday, is he?
I would like him to play. I honestly have no idea.
Yeah.
I just think public opinion about it has kind of turned on him for the much, much worse.
Yeah.
As time goes on.
I believe so too. And I think that I don't know if they're in a position where like, oh man, we really, really need him. But I mean, everyone, as you know, who's a fan would want him to be on the team, obviously.
Yeah,
and especially
he it was his absence was sort of a marked presence on last Sunday.
The first regular season game, where, I mean, they did not look like Seattle defense that we're used to. So, unfortunately,
and I mean they were good, but it was like there was a couple things missed that Chancellor would have potentially not screwed up on, and
right.
And like when Bailey tripped, that was just rough.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, it still was kind of exciting, and it was still at least a close game.
I think our offense looked pretty good for most of the game.
Yep. Even though I don't believe Marshawn Lynch got a touchdown.
No, but he got a 2-point conversion.
Right.
And our O-line is, of course, basically Swiss cheese.
Yeah. So hopefully hopefully they just catch their stride. It was a tough matchup for their first week, but
yeah, and the Rams are basically our foil.
Yeah,
and the Seahawks are kind of slow to start every year.
Right. I think they went 2-2 in the preseason last year as well as this year.
Yeah.
I think in the first month, the word on the street was for last season that the dream was dead, and they were like, well, last season was our big first championship, and
yeah, we were going into like the second half of the season at like 4-3 or something like that.
Yep.
So yeah. I was surprised that everyone gave up hope so fast, man. And so I mean, like there's people like the Cubs, and they never win, and they'll hold on forever, right? Seattle, it's like we never win, and we finally do, and then everyone's like, oh shit.
I think that it had been so long. There'd been devastating seasons in the past. 2005, I remember, because I was new to Seattle, fairly new to the Seattle at the time, and I remember that was really, really rough. People today even still say, fresh off of the Patriots loss, that 2005 was even worse of a disappointment. Is that where we
got robbed by the Saints?
No, the Steelers.
Steelers, yeah, that's right.
So what are you gonna do? But I think that the hype train was so high. It would, this huge culmination. Everyone expected them to come out the gate the next season as the insanely dominant team they were that season, that year, especially in that Super Bowl, which was so dominant that the only people watching the whole thing to the end were Seahawks fans.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, everyone's reaction to that was like, this is the worst Super Bowl ever. Except unless you were in Seattle, at which point it was the most exciting. It was the most excited you had ever been. Football fan or no, the fireworks were going off at every play after halftime.
I bet Eli Manning was watching. He's like, I still have more Super Bowls than Peyton.
He was there. I don't know if you remember. He was he was up in the box, and they kept doing this weird story before the game, and during the game they kept cutting back to him, and it was just him sternly staring down at Peyton Manning, and you're like, what the fuck is this? And he'd stare up at his brother, and he'd stare back down, and it was like anime. It was like, what is going on?
Poor Eli.
That's excellent. We need more of that.
I remember even the Fox, because they stream the Super Bowl for free. Fox Sports does, I believe, and they had that year, and that's how we were watching it, because we don't really have normal TV, and we just had it at home. We didn't go out for it or anything, and they had all this, you know, pre-show stuff leading up to this to kickoff, and they had they had this great like kind of narrative, like video packages to show little stories about Peyton Manning, and then one for Russell Wilson, and it was amazing how deliberately they were setting up this face heel good guy bad guy story going into the Super Bowl, right? Where they're like, here's Russell Wilson, and he's young, and he's dominant, he's doing so well, and he's going to do this for his dead dad, who he loves, and he also loves Christ, and you know what I mean? And it's like he's like Rocky, you know what I mean? Like he's this underdog.
Yeah.
They said he was too short, you know, whatever. Like
Yeah.
and then they go to do the Peyton Manning one, and it's like dome, and it's just footage of him looking sternly into the camera, and it's like he is a legacy, you know, he can't be killed, you know, it's like he is an unstoppable monster, he is not a human being, you know, and it was just great how they set like Russell Wilson up as this super sympathetic character, and then they'd go to Peyton Manning, and it's like he's a machine, he can't be stopped unless like it was awesome.
Yeah.
I was
That
a little
one was
disappointed.
crazy.
I was a little disappointed in this offseason when Russell Wilson kept making the news and for just being a weirdo and like, talking about his relationship and like just like being kind of a weird like media goofball character. And I was like, oh my god, please! After that Super Bowl, just lay low. Just everyone lay low. No one make a spectacle of themselves. You know, it's like wait. You know, you can talk about your new girlfriend. Whatever things going on there, you know, after things get rolling in the regular season. I don't know. It seemed like the worst time for like, hey, let's find more reasons for people to make fun of the Seahawks.
Oh man, it must be pretty bad over there.
Yeah, well, you guys probably don't see it as much as
I don't see it at all. It doesn't exist here.
honestly. I moved here right after Seahawks' big first victory. You know, they looked great and they were a sexy team, and no one here could even tell you, you know, a month after the fact, after the Super Bowl, who was in the Super Bowl.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's just, you know, again, I feel a lot of the West Coast divisions are just largely ignored. They're not even opinions on the Niners, Chargers.
Huh.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
So, which is funny because I feel like, you know, football fans out there you know, they look at it as a nation.
Yeah, they see everything.
Nationwide thing. But that's kind of a thing here. It's a very insular kind of place, New England.
Old bloodlines.
Yeah.
Trace them back.
Bird people.
Yeah.
They are goldfish. This is a goldfish bowl. And if it's outside of their goldfish bowl, they don't understand it. They don't care. And if you're listening, please be sure to donate. I don't know. I think we've peaked for the evening in terms of listeners and donations and things here. But
Yeah,
we'll keep
possibly.
it rolling for a little bit. We had a good 2 hours. That's not bad.
Yeah.
It's a good show. Hadn't done this in a while. $140 out of the 210.
Hey.
Not bad.
Yeah.
For 2 hours work, we did really good. This is great in lieu of, you know, I thought about it halfway through the podcast. I should have posted this up on the Night Marathon page and like had Night Marathon channel host this channel, just because that has so many more followers and things.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun to do a tiny little version of a charity stream again.
Yeah,
We're back to our bread and butter.
Yeah, exactly. There's kind of shades of Night Marathon 2012 here, where like the overlay that I made for this stream is I made it like an hour ago just to make sure we had one, and like and like the counter on the screen is just a like a screen grab of the website.
But it went up, didn't it?
It's been at 140 for a while.
Oh, they were like, it went up, and I was like, oh.
Back
active.
then, yeah, it did, and it works. Cool. It was like the super ghetto setup that reminded me of 2012, where we're just like, we'll just open up a web browser, and then like all the panels on their layout are just like, you know, screen grabs of like the number on some other website.
What did you make that layout in?
Yeah.
Photoshop.
Oh shit. Okay, I need a layout.
Oh yeah, it's just a JPEG.
Huh.
Yeah, with holes in it that I put.
Yeah.
You know, that's it. But yeah, any.
My stream is nude.
Wait, what'd you say?
I said my stream is nude.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know,
Yeah.
I look at sometimes your I don't know how much of a Brento Box stream fan you are, Dan.
I actually haven't watched his stream.
So I've watched it a few times.
I think I just need to follow him so I can see when he goes up.
Yeah,
You should. Sometimes I do.
I watch a lot of the archive stuff that happens, and it's interesting because a lot of it is the audio for his streams is audio from a different Twitch channel that he's watching while he's playing games.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, like you can hear his other browser window open.
That's like the most Brent thing I've heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. When really no one is watching, I'm just like, okay, no one's watching, I'm playing this, but I'll stream it, so it's fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Stream it just as proof that you played it, not necessarily to be entertaining.
Well, to be entertaining, but if anyone's watching, like, I'll interact with them.
Right, right.
Yeah. But if I have like 0 viewers and I'm not getting like any, I'm just, oh, I'll just listen to something.
Right, just fuck around, yeah.
Right.
It's good.
It's not professional.
No, it's
professional.
No one's
streamer.
paying you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, all right, guys, you want to call it a night?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
All
about
right.
time.
Good. It was a good show then, and thanks to everyone who tuned in and donated and everything. This has been pretty fun. I'm glad we were able to do this. It's kind of motivated us to do another podcast, which for the first time in months now.
Yeah, like almost 3 months.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And
Even though we talk about it literally all the time.
we constantly
It's like all
text
we
each other
talk
like,
about.
"Hey, how about tonight?" And it's tough, but a lot of it too was now Gwen is kind of just now getting into a reliable sleeping pattern and everything too.
Right.
So that helps out for working on anything at night.
Yeah, Danny McGee's kind of become a ghost the last few weeks.
Oh yeah, and he will
Yeah.
remain a ghost for a few months, and that's
Yeah.
just how it is. I mean, that's how it was when Luke was first born. Even when I was
Yeah.
living out there, like you kind of just you're kind of at work 24 hours a day for a few months at least. But once the schedule kicks in, and then you can start having all of your friends over after 7 p.m. to hang out in your basement, and
Yep.
every night. And they won't even know you have kids. It's great. And
It's just
because
sleep and sleep.
children make a lot of people in their 20s uncomfortable, so it's helpful to hide them away when your friends come over,
Pretend they don't exist.
right? Oh, all right. Well, Josh is still tuning in, so thanks for tuning in to Josh, and thanks for donating.
Yeah, good seeing you, dude.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe we'll do some more ones live. This has been fun being able to interact with some people.
Yeah, I like this too.
Yeah, so who knows? All right, well, thanks, guys, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Yeah, see you.
All right, I'll see you, man.
See ya.